Welcome. I try and do little yoga tips every week, usually on Tuesday evenings, although in August we'll be switching to Wednesday. This month in the Subtle Yoga Resilience Society, which is my membership group, I have been working with neuroplasticity, the capacity of the brain to change. Now, not all parts of the brain change equally. Some are easier to change than others. That the parts of your brain that are deeper, that are older, brainstem stuff, midbrain, a little more difficult to change. We can still make some changes, but a little more difficult to change. And that stuff resides below the level of consciousness. So, you know that joke? Have you seen that meme of the cat standing in the mirror going, I is kind, I is smart, I is important, right? We laugh at that because we know that cats aren't really using their front brain to make neuroplastic changes. Human beings can do that, but not if we are trying to get into our cat brain, which is more the limbic structure, midbrain, brainstem stuff. The cats have a cortex too, but it's not, certainly at least my cat doesn't use it for rational decision making when he brings dead animals into the house. Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk about that. So one of the things I wanted to say today that I think is relevant here is that for a long time, the scientific community thought, for more than 400 years, the scientific community thought that the brain doesn't change. But actually, we have learned in the past 30 years or so that neuroplasticity is a thing and you can change your brain, which I think that's really a beautiful thing to understand, because if you can change your brain through your thoughts, your words, your actions, your behaviors, that means that you can change your mind and you can change your attitude and you can change things about your life you don't like. I mean, change is possible, which I think has huge implications, So I'm going to show you some of the fine motor stuff we've been working on today, but let me just talk a little bit more about that for a moment, or about neuroplasticity for a moment. So, the yogis have always said that we can change. In the West, we kind of got stuck with this idea, like people are people, nobody changes. But, actually, like, what's the point of life if you're not changing? It makes a lot of sense to me that things can change, people can change, the brain can change. So what parts of the brain change when you do yoga? There's a research study in 2014 by Chantal Villemure and Catherine Bushnell at the National Institute of Health. One of the things that they wanted to look at was, it's well known across the literature that the brain starts to shrink with age and you start to lose gray matter with age. So they looked at people who do yoga, and what they discovered is that it doesn't happen for people who practice yoga. As they get older, they don't see the same amount of loss of gray matter. That's exciting. Woohoo! Do yoga, it's good for your brain. We always knew that, but it's great when the National Institute of Health corroborates that idea. And some of the places that change in the brain change over time, like after you've been practicing for years, but some things they found change just with 2 weeks of practice. That's pretty exciting for anybody. And the more you practice, the more change you get. So, sometimes like we don't practice because you just have other things going on, but like creating a habit of practice, that's like my thing. I'm always talking to people about it, like create that habit, get into that habit, make it as much a part of you as brushing your teeth is, because it's as good for you as brushing your teeth, maybe better. It's gonna, okay, you should brush your teeth, but what I'm trying to say is like it's good in the long run to not lose as much gray matter. Now, one of the places we know that changes just after 2 weeks of practice is the sensory motor cortex, or at least that's what the findings of that research study at the National Institute of Health showed. The sensory motor cortex, it's got neurons that come up, nerve impulses that come up from the body to the brain, right? And tell you how you feel, which is so important, because when we cut ourselves up from our feelings, we do things that we are not necessarily aligned with who we are and our values, and it doesn't contribute to our sense of self or to a coherent sense of self, right? So when you know how you feel, you know what to do because you know who you are. That's important. And yoga helps to reify that in the system, right? Yoga practice. And then the motor cortex sends messages down to your body to do things. A lot of this stuff, of course, is happening at the level below the level of consciousness via procedural memory, and the motor cortex is terribly involved in it. But we do, when you see some, people who have had damage to the one side of their brain and they can't move the other side of their body, like by a stroke or something, we know that neuroplasticity is a thing, so that can, you can actually rebuild some of that. And also, we can fine tune it, right, with yoga practices. We can fine tune the maps of the body that live in the brain. And there's maps of your body all over your brain, many different places. But one of the places, of course, is the sensory motor cortex. Okay, so the hands and the feet have a ton of nerve. They're highly innervated. If you've seen that homunculus, which is the diagram of like where things in the body map out to the brain, you'll see like the hands have a lot of cortical real estate because they're so important for doing things, and they have so much sensory, they sense so much, but they also can do a lot with the motor system. So that's one of the things I love to work on, is just feeling the hands moving through space in your asanas, whatever you're doing, what it feels like, but also working the hands a little bit. So a simple way to work them is through an external rotation that is accompanied by an unfolding, natural kind of unfolding of the fingers, and then reversing that as you come out of it. And you can also add an inhale and an exhale. So here's, I do it in all sorts of poses, but here's a simple one. You can do it in mountain pose, inhaling, thumb, index, middle, ring, little finger, and then little finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, thumb, so that you end up with just a soft fist, right? You want to try it again? And you can do it for 5 counts, which we see in the research literature. 5 counts in, 5 counts out is just about an optimal breathing for putting the nervous system into a parasympathetic homeostatic state or homeodynamic state, which is really important because that's the state that we heal in, that we grow in, that we thrive in. So I hope that was fun. I hope you try it. And also, if you're interested in studying with me, every Tuesday at 5:30 Eastern Time, I'm live. I do classes, I do Q&A sessions, I do special events in the Subtle Yoga Resilience Society. So you're welcome to join me. I'd love to have you. And thank you so much for watching. See you next week.